I am easy to please. Always have been, always will be. I've come out of every movie that I've ever seen content that my money was well spent on an enjoyable experience. Hell, I even thought that when I saw the original Suicide Squad, even if I had to hide it. I mean, it wasn't that bad, guys. Come on, I had fun.
What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
Okay. No. Fine. Maybe I'm not the best person to differentiate between what's good and what's bad. I'm too easily pleased. I'm a people pleaser as much as I don't want to be. I hate controversy and confrontation. In short, I'm a bitch. But while this bitch may not have the best sense of good and bad when it comes to quality, I think I can trust my judgment when I consider something to be perfect. Because I don't consider many things to be perfect. While it doesn't take a lot to keep me happy, it takes 100 times that for me even to think about using the word perfect. And Little Big Planet is a perfect game. Little Big Planet 2 is somehow more perfect. And Little Big Planet 3, I mean it was alright. It wasn't perfect. It was, I mean, when you compare it to the first two, we'll get into it later. But in the meantime, let's take a lovely stroll back to the crisp year of 2008 in suburban Alabama, where a goofy little 7-year-old kid with glasses just got a new game that would take up entirely too much of his time and give him a burning passion for creativity and creation that no amount of kindergarten classes could instill. A new game that would start a lifelong addiction to the art form that is video games. Little Big Planet, or LBP as the hipsters call it, is technically defined as a puzzle platformer that came out 13 years, Jesus, I'm old. 13 years ago for the PS3 in October of 2008. Created by British developer Media Molecule. You know, those same guys that made that Dreams game that was popular for like 2 seconds on YouTube. You know, the game that lets people both play and create the levels so that the creative community can keep the game alive and interesting. Yeah, interesting. Well, Little Big Planet served as the original iteration of this idea, and honestly, I think it enacted it way better. In Little Big Planet, you play as Sackboy, a little stuffed doll that is so unfortunately named, but so well designed and so adorable. I mean, look at him. God, he's got so many costumes. He's so good at... Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. God. This game is cute. Looking up all this B-roll footage is just bringing back memory after memory of this lovable game. Just like, look at him. Look, it's Sonic. He's Sonic, and he's got tails, and I'm getting carried away. Is it obvious this is my first essay type video? Nah, I don't think so. Where was I? Oh yeah, the beginning. So, this was an era where multiplayer in games just wasn't as common. Xbox Live was just making its debut, and Sony needed to dip their toe into it. As Sackboy, your task is simple. Start the level, and get to the end of it without dying. Seems pretty complex, right? Puzzle platformers at the time didn't really have to go above and beyond to do well, but this game is no ordinary puzzle platformer. If you noticed, earlier I said this game was technically a puzzle platformer, and well, on paper it is, but I would argue that this game is a puzzle platformer in the same way that Minecraft is a puzzle platformer whenever you're playing a parkour map. The typical MO for this game's single player revolves around certain power-ups and abilities that Sackboy possesses at his disposal, and using all these abilities along with Sackboy's innate grabbing and jumping capabilities in unique ways to traverse complex platforming pieces in certain simple puzzles. And Little Big Planet 1 and 2 revolve around 3 layers: the foreground, middle ground, background. 3 doesn't, and it wasn't a good call. Again, we'll get there. The stories for all 3 of these games are honestly some of the most lovable stories of any platformer I have ever played, and while it's not going to win a Grammy or anything for its writing, it's enough to keep me invested for 3 entire games. And that's not an easy task. I get bored in like negative seconds. Normally you jump on blocks simply to rescue a princess for no other reason than she's a princess, and fight the bad guy for no other reason than the game plays boss music when you meet him. Like I said, puzzle platformers weren't too complex in this day and age, but the stories in Little Big Planet are almost as charming and unique as the environment and art style that made me fall in love with this game. Speaking of art style, God did this game do it right. One look through all the levels of all 3 games, and it just becomes clear that a lot of love and care was put into almost every corner of these games. Just some of these visuals paired with one of the best soundtracks I have ever heard in any video game, and that is not an exaggeration. While it's not an original soundtrack, the game consists of countless separate songs taken and altered from real life to fit the game's cutesy DIY feel. And it works! I still have a playlist on Spotify that's the soundtrack from all 3 of these games. All the music in the background of this video is from the games itself. All of these aspects combine to give a truly surreal experience while playing this game. I'm not saying this game is graphically ingenious or anything, or the graphics are hyper-realistic, but they don't have to be. It was enough to provide an experience I still have never recreated in any other game to this day. But while the single player was enough to enthrall me through 3 entire games, if that were it, I would have forgotten the experience before the next Christmas. The main driving force that elevates this game over countless others that I have played in my life is a feature that I had never seen or had even thought possible up until this point in my life. Admittedly, I was 7 and stupid, but honestly, I've seen few games do it this well to the present day. Personally, I think Little Big Planet is the best game out of any game that utilizes this specific feature, except for maybe Minecraft, because, I mean, that game can't be beaten. Another perfect game, by the way, but like, do I really need to explain that one? Nah. So, what is this elusive feature that makes Little Big Planet a perfect game? The ability to create. It's simple. Level creation. I genuinely believe this game gives you more freedom to create than almost any other game I've ever played. Besides Minecraft. Hell, I said it was technically a puzzle platformer, but somehow some crazy bastard made a level that was an FPS that didn't even feature Sackboy as a playable character at all. If that doesn't shed light on the truly infinite possibilities for level creation that these games provide, I don't know what will. Look, this is what the single player looks like. And here's what the community has turned the game into. It hardly looks like the same game in some places. The sheer amount of diverse community-made levels in this game is truly what kept me playing for countless years of my childhood and caused me still to go back every few years to visit the nostalgia. When you take control of your pod, which serves as the highly personable and customizable level hub for the game, and navigate to your moon, which gives you plenty of empty levels for creation, you get dropped into this blank canvas while retaining complete control of Sackboy. This isn't some Mario Maker zoom out and tap to create like some omnipotent god. You retain complete control of your character as you build anything you want, and you can just play around with whatever you create right there and then. You're given the ability to fly and control time as a sort of pause play undo redo feature, again all while still playing as your character. In a way, the level creation process is just as fun as playing any of the created levels. The creation experience is so seamless, even children become capable of making incredibly detailed and unique levels. I mean, I was 7 and stupid! One of the best testaments to this game's level creation system is the fact that every level in the single player was made using the exact same system that every player has access to. And these levels are incredibly beautiful and intricate, as I said. I have never encountered a better level creation system in my life, and I have never had so much fun making levels. So, they say an artist is only good as his tools, right? Well, Little Big Planet gives you some of the most complex level creation tools I have ever seen, and they are so incredibly intuitive and easy to use. There's no coding or external software downloading needed to develop new levels or items. The game gives you everything you need and more. And once you want to play the levels made by other people, you just go over to your planet and start playing them. No websites or downloading maps or mod, it's all in the game. All 3 games revolve around a few essential tools that seem simple, but give you more freedom than you would think. You collect different tools and objects through the game's stories that can then be used to craft any sort of unique experience you can think of. The material tool itself offers several different methods of placements that allow you to truly create any kind of shape, and the objects, stickers, and decoration, among other tools common throughout all 3 games, allow you to create things with the confidence that no one had ever created this thing before. Now, up until now, I have discussed the 3 games as sort of a conglomerate single entity, and only discussed the favorable features that all 3 have in common. But the truth is that the 3 games contain some very key differences among their similarities, so now let's take a look at the games, one at a time. Little Big Planet 1. The first iteration in the series. It conveys the core ideas and mechanics in the most bare-bones way, while Little Big Planet 2 really skyrocketed the possibility for creation with the addition of many more complex tools. The original was simpler, in a kinda good way. The story consisted of you traveling through these unique worlds based off different countries and exhibited unique aspects of those countries' cultures to create lovable worlds that do nothing but make you want to see more. You go through these worlds meeting diverse and endearing characters and helping them out with various problems, and it reaches a climax when you meet the Collector, a stingy man who hates sharing. So he starts to steal all the new creations of your friends and of other creators around Little Big Planet, like a big evil meanie. It's a kid's game, remember? And once you fight the Collector, he reveals he's only this selfish because he doesn't have any friends. Damn, I love a good relatable villain. So Sackboy brings together all of his friends that he made throughout the story mode, and the king from the tutorial makes a return to show that the Little Big Planet community could be the friends the Collector always wanted. The end. They live happily ever after. Yeah. So I never said it was too complex, but it's definitely more than just killing turtles and saving princesses, right? And traveling through these diverse worlds, trying to find all the collectibles and secrets, truly keeps you engaged and attentive throughout the entire story. The worlds are incredibly diverse, and the various jumping puzzles and the likes are incredibly unique and keeps you guessing until the very end. It hardly ever resorts to just jumping on platforms. There's always an element of uniqueness to it to keep you invested. While the story is almost entirely puzzle platforming, it works if you're into that kind of thing, and you never really get bored of it because there's always the option to go sift through the cool levels of that week and find a completely different experience. The story mode in all three games provides so much opportunity for replayability, being the only game I've ever felt compelled to 100%. I didn't, because I'm bad at video games, but there was an attempt. All of the collectibles and secrets can be used outside of the levels to either personalize your pod and player or provide more tools for level creation. So it's more than just getting an achievement or ticking a box off a to-do list just to get that seal of completion. I have such vivid memories of trying to ace every level in the game, meaning not dying a single time in any level. Normally my ADHD brain would get tired of doing the same thing over and over again, but something about this game just scratched that weirdly specific itch every single time without fail, and while I do consider the first iteration of this holy trinity to be about as close to perfect as a game can get, it really just set the scene for what is the most perfect game I have ever played. Little Big Planet 2. My #1 favorite game of all time. I know it sounds sappy and maybe a bit exaggerative, but I mean it when I say that this game changed my life. I fully believe that this game gave me a passion for creation. I mean, hell, I'm here writing a script and putting more effort into this than any essay I have ever written. This game was the first thing that made me realize that I have a creative spark, and I like making things that no one else has. Whether or not I was good at it is another story, but a passion was born. I was 10 when this game came out in 2011, and while I loved the original Little Big Planet, I didn't sink in nearly as many hours into it as the sequel, and the reason for that is simple. The creators listen to their community. I know in this day and age, it's really rare to find a developer who can listen to the demands of their fans. I mean, most companies just put out whatever they think will make the most money, and the fans just kinda have to deal with it. I mean, they can voice their opinions, but it's kinda just like screaming into the void. No, I do not have anyone specific in mind. No one at all. But Media Molecule listened. And in all actuality, I'm sure they fully intended Little Big Planet 1 to be a puzzle platformer and nothing else. They gave you the tools that they thought you would use to build more puzzle platformers, but of course nothing ever goes to plan when you involve the internet. If there's even a chance that the online community can pervert your idea into something completely different, someone's gonna take that chance. That's when Media Molecule noticed that people were making anything but puzzle platforming levels. They were making RPGs and fighters and even entire games within Little Big Planet. So Media Molecule took this idea and ran with it, almost giving the franchise a new life. I remember hearing one specific quote during the E3 reveal for this game that still sticks with me, and I think it sums up the game perfectly. It's not just a platforming game. It's a platform for games. And they were not lying. If the toolkit given to you in Little Big Planet 1 was diverse, the tools they give you in this game are on a whole nother level. Hell, they added logic gates and programmable robots, essentially making a very intuitive way to teach kids how to code. I was walking around at 10 years old with a full understanding of AND gates and OR gates and XOR gates and all the sorts of coding and logic lingo, and I used it to make a vampire simulator. Look, I was 10, and I had just seen my babysitter's a vampire, so like, I really wanted to be one. We've all had that phase, right? Right? Anyways, Little Big Planet 1 received many DLC packs with some actual heavy hitter franchises. The DLC slowly added new tools for creation, such as water in the Pirates of the Caribbean DLC, or guns in the Metal Gear DLC. Well, paintball guns. It's Little Big Planet, remember? But the community was just too ravenous. They wanted more, and they wanted it now. So Media Molecule, who was originally hesitant to craft a sequel to this game, revealed Little Big Planet 2. And whoa, did this game succeed in improving upon the original in almost every way. Just one look at some of this footage and you can tell that the potential for creation went through the roof. Well, in the first game it felt like you had to use the tools in ways that they weren't intended in order to craft a level that felt unique. The sheer amount of tools in Little Big Planet 2 made it possible to make anything you could really dream of. People were out here turning a puzzle platformer into full-on movies with cinematic universes. Eat your heart out, MCU. People were making top-down RPGs, FPSs, you name it. And I was right there with them, cranking out levels like it was my job. The Controlinator allowed you to remap any input on your controller and have it control any kind of logic or motor or mover so that you no longer just had to play as Sackboy. It was insane the thing people did. They added ways to make your own music, your own NPCs, anything. It honestly is so hard to tell you guys everything this game made possible because, like I've said a million times, the possibilities were endless. They even had backwards compatibility with LBP 1 levels, so you never had to go back once you bought the new game. I remember just spending hours upon hours missing so much vital sleep just so I could see what unique new levels people could think of. Every individual new tool was so incredibly customizable, containing settings menus that could go on for pages, but still be easily understood by the stupid 10-year-old that I was. One other place that was improved upon greatly was the story. While Little Big Planet 1 contained almost exclusively platforming levels of some variation, Little Big Planet 2 began to add in RPG elements and minigames and races and so many other unique levels to the story. So the unique feel was no longer restricted to the community-made levels. The story had so much diversity in gameplay. The boss fights felt epic. The NPCs were Sackbots. Again, an unfortunate name, but they looked like the player. They moved like the player. They even had voice acting. The story felt less like a bunch of disjointed but charming platforming levels, like in Little Big Planet 1. It truly felt like a story mode, not just a single-player mode. Speaking of story, it was more connected with the single big bad showing up early on and causing trouble for all of the lovable characters you get to meet. The Negativitron tries to suck Sackboy. Pause. No, that's what the Wikipedia says. Why did they put it like that? But you're saved by Larry Da Vinci, a member of a secret society known as the Alliance. The Alliance is just full of so many awesome characters that seem so much more lifelike due to the fact that they're voice acted and look and move like the player. Eventually, you band together with the friends you make in an awesome spaceship level and search the cosmos for this evil entity, culminating in a big battle where the powers of creation and creativity overpower destruction and negativity. This story is already a huge improvement from the first game, and even if the stories of these games are never the main focus, it was nice to see so much care put into providing unique experiences in every level that far surpasses any level in the original. I could talk for hours about this game, but I have a video to finish, so let's talk about the black sheep of the family, as much as I don't want to. Little Big Planet 3. This game just kind of makes me sad. At first glance, it seems like the game improves upon the second, just like the second did to the first. There's more of everything. They added more playable characters with different abilities, they added more layers to travel between, more unique story levels that encompass many different game genres, and more. So how could this game be bad, right? Well, sometimes you just have to face the fact that more does not always equal better. The new characters seemed pretty cool when I first saw them in the trailer. You had Oddsock, who was a dog who could wall jump, Swoop, a bird who could fly and glide throughout levels, and Toggle, who could toggle his size and weight with a button. I was actually really hyped, and it remains one of the few games that I've pre-ordered. Normally I always wait for a YouTuber I trust to review any games I want to buy, even back in 2014 when Little Big Planet 3 came out. It's crazy to think how these games almost grew up with me. I was 7 when the first game came out, and 13, a teenager when the last one did. But this game didn't do much more than leave a sour memory of the franchise as a whole for many players. First of all, on release the game was a buggy mess. People had their save files corrupted, losing everything that they had created since the first game, since Little Big Planet 3 also possessed the same backwards compatibility that the first two did. That, among certain features just not working as intended, and some levels becoming unplayable right off the bat. A bad tone was set for this unfortunate end to the trilogy. This game also came out around the debut of the PS4, but didn't allow crossplay between PS4 and PS3 players, so if you couldn't afford the new console, you couldn't play with your friends who could. All of this caused a massive proportion of the community, who was significantly older now, just to up and leave. Give up on the new game and just enjoy what LPB2 was and move on. For me, being the diehard fan that I was, I stuck with it. Even if I may have been a bit older than the game's intended audience at this point, I still had a love for Little Big Planet and I wanted to see it through. And see it through I did, and boy was it alright. I played the story in its entirety and honestly, I couldn't tell you a single thing about it. For the other story synopses of the other two games in this video, I didn't even have to look them up. I just had them in my memory because they were so much fun and made such an impact on my life. But for Little Big Planet 3, it just didn't stand out. I honestly can't remember anything about it, and I'm not even going to take the time to tell you about the story. I care that little for this game. Which is crazy given how much I adore the first one and the second one. Many of the online bugs that made multiplayer impossible went unsolved for years after launch, in a game whose main feature is multiplayer. It just seems like the developers gave up on it. Why would Media Molecule abandon their magnum opus? Except, this wasn't Media Molecule's game. This game was made by Sumo Digital, a company who had no stake in the franchise and in turn had no idea what made the franchise special. That on top of Sony rushing the release for the holiday season just ended up with a game that was alright when it worked, but it rarely ever worked. And because of this, the very thing that the game relies on to stay active left. The community gave up on the game, so there was no community to make more levels, causing even the most diehard fans to just give up. On top of that, this may just be my opinion, but the new characters and extra layers really only serve to pigeonhole this game right back into a puzzle platformer. What can you really do with a character that can wall jump? Make platforming levels. It just came to a point where the only community levels were platforming levels, and just like that, 5 years of listening to the community was ruined. Truly a tragic end to the story that is so vital to my life. This is a story with a sad ending, I know, but it really doesn't stop there. There is one last epilogue I want to leave you with before the video ends. The sad reality for games that hinge upon an online feature is that they have a limited lifespan. Eventually servers get shut down due to them being too expensive to justify when they're not making any in return. The lovely world of Little Big Planet was, sadly, no exception. In the worst year of 2020, everything was going wrong. So why not attack my childhood while you're at it, right, universe? Since the franchise had been out for over a decade at this point, being 6 years since the release of the final game, the servers were not incredibly closely monitored and support for the game was sparse, but for some reason, people saw this as an opportunity. The Little Big Planet servers were taken down by a DDoS attack. Offensive messages were placed in this kids game by hackers, and while Sumo tried their best to fix the issues, the games simply were too old. They decided to pull the plug, take them off life support. The community was already on their last leg. What else did they have to lose? So, that is how the story ends. If I go back to my favorite game of all time, there's just nothing there. The single player alone just isn't enough. While I can't go back and relive my childhood, I thought I would make this video to commemorate the amazing franchise that is and was Little Big Planet. While there is a possibility for maybe more games in the future, it's really over. The game that began my life mission of creating things to make people happy is gone. I realized how much I loved it, and I really do owe this game a lot, which is weird to say. Not a lot of people can see a video game in this kind of emotional, sappy, sensationalist kind of way, but video games are an art form like any other. And this franchise in particular, I think, teaches a vital life lesson. Never stop doing what you love, and never underestimate the power of creation. The end. Thank you so much for watching. If you didn't realize, this is my first kind of big project on my YouTube channel. Before, it's only really been kind of stream highlights and such. Those aren't gonna end, but I wanted something a bit different to add into the mix, and here we are. Hell, I wrote a script and everything. I put effort into this, so if you really think my effort was worth it, show it, you know, give a like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. Follow me on Twitch if you want to see more of me. And, you know, the stream highlights won't stop, but I wanted to get something a bit unique to kind of intersperse in there. So, without further ado, thank you for watching. I've been Ampo. Subscribe for more, stay tuned, more down the pipeline. and I'll see you guys next time.